What's up, everyone? Welcome. We are live right now on CannaBuzz, and if you're joining us on Spotify or the podcast sphere, thank you so much for joining us. We have a great episode for you today. This one is for the growers. As always, we've got Farmer Freeman on the show. We're going to be talking about sex testing your plants. So if you're growing some seeds, which I'm thinking about doing that a little bit this winter season while we're forced to be inside, why not crack some seeds? Well, Farmer Freeman can help you get those things sex tested. And also, it looks like we have some like breeding questions. So we're just going to try to go through some rapid questions real quick over the next half hour or so. And let's see, before we get too far into it, I need to make a couple shout outs. First off, shout out to everyone in the CannaBuzz community. We're streaming live in there, and our episodes go live in the community first. So if you want to get the latest stuff, check that out. And then I'm going to throw it over to JR while I help this baby that's crying in the background.
That's so great. So I'll go ahead and do our shout outs for Sacred 3 mushrooms. Tanazi over at Sacred 3 has definitely helped a lot of folks do their own home grow kits. And he has a lot of educational videos that will literally walk you through the process. And at tanazigardens.com, you can pick up genetics and start your journey. Also, we want to give a shout out to Lost Coast Plant Therapy. They've been a huge supporter of ours for a very long time. We're super appreciative of Dirk and the family, and we're so excited to see them branch out into the agricultural world and start offering solutions that don't require death to our living soil. So I want to also thank Tiki from our Tiki announcements. Tiki has at tikiseeds.com buy one and get a free pack, and you also get sticker packs with every order. And Raw Genetics at rawgenetics.com, which Brad just recently secured that IP or that domain. So check out rawgenetics.com. He's doing this really cool t-shirt promo. With $100 minimum purchase, you get one of these really cool design t-shirts that he's put out. So check out rawgenetics.com.
Awesome. And links are in the podcast description if you want to support them. Thanks for supporting us. All right, let's get into it. We've got Farmer Freeman on the show, Jackson Farmer Freeman. He's on the show to educate us on sex testing and the advantages of traditional breeding. He's been working with the plant and the community for a while now, and we've been talking to you for, I don't know, probably like 5 years, probably you've been on the show. So it's awesome to have you on again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, man. Yeah, I think 5 years is conservative there. I really feel like we've been connected pre-COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's true.
It's crazy.
So Farmer Freeman, the company is coming up on a 10-year anniversary of our incorporation this month, October 2025. So like you said, I mean, we've been here for quite a while doing these plant DNA sex tests. And just happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me, JR and Q.
Yeah, we're stoked. We're going to get into it today. We're going to try to keep it short for you. I know you're a recent father and you've got things to do, so we'll get going. So first of all, can you kind of give people an overview of what inspired you to start Farmer Freeman and do this DNA based sex testing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I founded the company back in 2015 here in Washington, D.C. That year, or maybe the year before, D.C. had just legalized home grow, which was just incredibly exciting. I really feel like we were one of the first places in the country to have home grow rights as free as we did or do. So we could grow 6 plants at home, 3 of which could be flowering, or if you had 2 adults in the home, you could grow 12 plants, 6 of which could be flowering. So myself and some buddies, we were fresh out of college, living in a group house, obviously started growing, and also fresh out of college, needed a job, looking around the room like, okay, just got this science degree. Maybe I can combine these two, science and cannabis, and looking at these seedlings and like, okay, there's clearly a genetic difference between a male plant and a female plant. Maybe we can use PCR, which is a tool that's been around since the 80s, to identify, something in that DNA that'll tell us if it's going to be male or female. Sure enough, some research groups around the world had already tried this idea, realized it's possible, and so we kind of piggybacked on their research and created a service element from it. So yeah, around 2016 was when we officially launched our sex testing service. And basically all we need is a small piece of leaf about the size of your fingernail. We're going to take the DNA out of it and analyze that DNA for the presence of a Y chromosome. And if it has it, we call it a male, and you can grow it or you can get rid of it. Most people will choose to get rid of it at that point. But yeah, ultimately, saving a ton of time and wasted space and energy, growing a plant that you don't want. So
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the main money savers at the end of it, because a lot of us right now in this growing space are trying to be economically conscious, you know what I mean? And so to eliminate the need for electricity, nutrients, medium, all the time that it takes the traditional, to be able to bang one of these out in a solo cup. I literally send you my samples when they're 8 inches tall. And so I know sometimes you like top, bottom, middle, but you're basically getting my cuts, and it's been reliable every time. And so one of the things I think people don't really kind of grasp their head around is this chromosome thing, the Y and the X, and genetically what is in there that makes them different, and how is that applied to the cannabis plant?
yeah, so similar to humans, cannabis plants are dioecious, meaning that there's two sexes within the species. So there's the XX chromosome pair, and if your DNA has that, then it's a female plant. And then the male plants will have an XY set of chromosomes. And so just as of earlier this summer, we've learned that Y chromosome is not actually the determinator of if a plant's going to be male or female, but it's an incredibly accurate predictor of if it's going to be male or female. So if we identify that Y chromosome, the prediction is that it's a male plant. That's not to say the Y chromosome has no value. Maybe we'll get into it a little later, but the Y chromosome has a ton of genes that are relevant to growth and disease resistance. And so, it's important to maintain that within the cannabis ecosystem.
Right.
Yeah, so kind of expand on that a little bit. So as that Y is coming into the equation, there's actual code in there that you're not going to find in the X code, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so there's some genes that are only found on that Y chromosome, and so if you're strictly growing XX plants or breeding female to female plants, you're going to be missing out on a lot of that genetic diversity. So we developed this test that detects that Y chromosome and then therefore determines or will tell you if your plant is going to be male or female.
So this is all good information because we've actually seen, and I don't know if you've seen it on your end too, like a resurgence of people breeding at home, or at least it's because I'm seeing like more and more people experimenting with it, like JR, making their own seeds. And so it's really interesting to just kind of talk through all this. For those that haven't used your service before and they're not familiar with the benefits of it, I want to talk through real quick some of the particulars. So one on the leaf clipping that you can send in. So people should understand that they don't need to grow a really big plant. They don't need to wait, you know, weeks and weeks and weeks. They could do it earlier than that. So I'd love to get kind of your pro tips. I obviously have my own methods, but I'd love to hear your kind of pro tips to really kind of highlight the advantages of how early folks can send this in. They don't have to, dedicate time and space to plants that they don't necessarily want to keep.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Yeah. So once that seed is made, that DNA is going to be the same for the life of the plant. So that means we can test your plant as early as we can physically get a sample of it. You don't have to wait. Like a lot of people think they need to wait like 4 weeks for, I don't know why they need to wait, but I guess they have this idea that the plant needs to grow and like the DNA needs to like solidify before it's ready for testing or something. But no, I mean, so like you alluded to, we only need a small clipping of a leaf. We tell people about 1 centimeter or 1/2 inch. Um, and that'll have all the genetic info that we need to run our test. So yeah, that can usually be taken from your plant when it's like between a week and 2 weeks old. Some people, if they're doing like rock wool cubes and have like a good nutrient system, the 1 week is way enough time to get their plants to a size where they can comfortably take that sample. Other people like to wait a little bit longer, but I always advise people like try to get this test done while it's still like, in the solo cup stage.
Right.
And that way you're going to get the most value out of your test. You're not going to be like ready to flip to flower and then get your results back and realize, oh man, all these plants, like they're not actually going to be female. I need to,
yeah, exactly. Or
basically have yourself 1 week behind instead of 6 weeks behind schedule.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a great point. Yeah, I think just to kind of put a pin on that one, folks. So basically, you have the cotyledon leaves, which are like the very first. Oops, sorry, hitting my mic. You have those first leaves that pop out of the little seed, and then you have another set of what folks call like true leaves, and then it'll go from there, right? And you have more and more leaves. So I don't know if you hate when guys like me send in samples. I've sent in those cotyledons. Like once the true leaves come in, I've sent in snipped off the little cotyledon while it's still alive and sent that to you and that's probably smaller than what you just said, but it still seems to work. Am I getting kind of lucky by sending in such a small sample?
Yeah, I mean, so cotyledon probably accounts for like maybe 10% of the samples we receive. I'm always happy to receive them as long as, like you said, they're still like green and healthy when you do take that sample. And yeah, they're going to be a little smaller than what we're requesting, especially when they like shrink up during transit. But for the most part, we have no issue getting a result from the cotyledon. And if we do have an issue, we just send you a new kit. You take a piece of a true leaf and we test it then. And you're still getting your answers way earlier than if you had grown it and flowered it out.
Right. Yeah. So you could just, and if you didn't want to do the cotyledon, you could just again wait for your second pair of true leaves, and then take one of the first, leaves and send that in to you, and then you get results. He's also, for folks watching, Jackson is super quick on the results. You send it in, thankfully the postal service still seems to be working, and you can get stuff out to the DC area within a couple days, even with the West Coast. And then I'll get results probably a couple days later from Farmer Freeman. So it's just really quick turnaround, within a week, basically you're finding out what you've got.
Yeah, we advertise a 1 to 2 business day turnaround once we have the samples. And so from there, it's up to you. Like, do you want to spring for some overnight shipping, or are you okay to wait a little bit longer with ground shipping? Everyone has like slightly different priorities. I also always suggest to people to buy their test kits like about the time that they're planting their seeds. That way, if there's any kind of shipping delay on receiving the kits or a delay getting them out to us, it's just great to not wait until the last minute.
Yeah, and talk about how they read their tags and how to best practices with their tags, and because you don't want to water them and get them washed out and not be
Sure,
able to
sure.
read them and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, right. So what we're sending you is a paper envelope. It's called a coin envelope, and it's about 2 inches by 4 inches. And inside of it is going to be a plastic plant tag with a serialized number that matches the number on the outside of the envelope. So you're just adding like a small piece of leaf into this. You put the tag with your plant, and we're going to email you a result that says, XY79052 is male or female. And like you alluded to, this is like a paper sticker on a plant tag. So if you're heavy-handed with the watering can, sometimes that sticker will kind of deteriorate a little bit. I always encourage people to I think everyone should have a grow journal or some kind of notebook, that details the age of their plants, what they're feeding them. Go ahead and copy this number down into that notebook, just in case, like, we've had people, their cat or their dog gets in there and knocks all the tags out. And it's nice to just like have that backup reference in your own notes.
That's a pro tip, because I've washed out my tags before and had to really struggle to figure out which one was which. And in the future now, I just throw a little bit of packing tape over it. And it's
that's smart.
Nice.
But
let's see. I wanted to jump in with a question, just to see if you had, because I know we're coming into the last, I don't know, let's say 10 minutes or so of the interview. So I want to make sure we throw in some good questions. But a hot topic in the community lately has been that feminized seeds result in like somehow weaker plants or something like that. Like basically plants that are grown from regular seed are somehow stronger or better than seeds that are feminized. Do you have any thoughts on that? I know that's not necessarily sex testing, but I'm just curious if you have any thoughts off the top of your head on that.
Yeah, totally. So when we first started this, I think a lot of the reason people grew regular seeds were that, they're half the price or less than the feminized seeds. And feminized seeds, there's a limited strain selection. There's, for every one set of feminized strain, there's 3 that you can get on regular formats. So, but from the onset, we were getting a lot of feedback from growers like, this test is so great. I only grow regular seeds because feminized seeds are just having, I get weaker plants from feminized seeds. And so that's something that we've heard consistently, as you have. And it turns out, there is some kind of science that backs that up. So I think I mentioned it earlier, but like that Y chromosome that's associated with male plants, that has 1,300 different genes related to flowering, disease resistance, and cannabinoid biosynthesis. So if you're, only breeding feminized seeds or growing feminized seeds, those plants are not going to have that Y chromosome. They're not going to have any of those genes in them. So you're missing out on, some potential diversity, some potential goodness that you would otherwise get if you grew a regular plant.
would you say, though, that if you've locked in stability and desired gene traits in the females and you cross them, are you kind of getting that kind of degradation when you're effing down a line from F1 to F5? You know how like you build instability, but you sacrifice vigor and all of that. Is that kind of the same? I wonder if that's kind of the same process with fem breeding, where you've got, kind of already narrowed gene line. I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, that can be desirable too. So
That's what I'm saying.
reducing the variance. It's when you have a pack of seeds, a lot of times, like especially new growers, they expect all those plants to look the same. And so that is one thing that feminized plants like kind of have an edge on is that reliability. And so, yeah,
That's what
maybe
I'm
like the
saying. Yeah.
potency or the strength isn't, like the branch strength and stuff maybe isn't quite as strong as like a hybrid, but you're getting a more
Focused.
honed and
Yeah.
focused product,
Yeah.
which is
I see
what,
that.
in a lot of other plants is desirable. Like you don't, when you buy a pack of like tomato seeds, like you want it to look like what's on that picture.
And I think S1s also kind of keep that gene expression pretty narrow, when they're selfing them onto themselves.
Yeah. I mean, breeders wouldn't be making so many fem seeds if they were trash. Like they're clearly,
Right.
serving a purpose and
Yes.
and useful for a lot of people. I mean, my first grows were with fem seeds because we didn't want to waste time with the males. This was,
Exactly.
20 years ago, back before a test like mine existed. Yeah.
So, since we're coming into the last little bit of the time that we've got with you, I'm going to throw in a question, and I'll give JR a minute to think about what he wants to ask. But I was going to ask you, so as home growers and like home breeders, are you seeing that those sorts of growers are getting access to technology that allows them to know even more about their plants, maybe know like this male in particular is going to be the better one, or this is the female that's the better one of all the things that I just sent in, or something like that. Are you seeing that technology starting to kind of come into grasp or whatever, arm's reach? Curious what you
Yeah.
kind of see where things go.
Yeah, that's great. Like, so I guess asking like, beyond just the sex gene
Yeah,
or sex
exactly.
marker, like what else is available or what are people doing? I haven't yet seen many of like the hobby or craft breeders or home growers like utilizing these types of services yet, but definitely like, these well-funded multi-state grow operations who have like scientists on staff, like they are utilizing like genomic sequencing services. So that's definitely like what we're doing is we're screening for like one single marker within that plant DNA, but these genetic sequencing services are like basically getting a full readout of all the DNA in that plant. And from there, the growers are like looking at that full readout and then looking at their plant and saying like, hey, this set of plants that's all resistant to like powdery mildew, they have this specific, pattern of DNA in their readout that's not found in the other plants. And then they're utilizing those plants to breed with and then sequencing the offspring of that. And yeah, further refining these new strains.
And recently we had Rab on from Seattle Chronic Seeds, and he does a lot of type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 breeding, and they're using it for identifying cannabinoid profiles.
Yeah.
And he said that it shortens the amount of labor and time by a tremendous amount, because they're able to look at what the potential is, what's there, and what they can kind of hone and focus their attention on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, so to validate the results of the sex test, you just have to get your plant into like the flowering stage, right? And then you see the pollen sacs or the flowers start to form. But like if you're breeding, if you're like trying to find like different like chemotypes, like, this is a CBG producing plant or this is like CBD to THC in a 2-to-1 ratio, like you kind of have to grow that plant out way longer than just looking at the flowering. Like you need to like grow some bud and then send that to like a chemical testing lab to analyze what cannabinoids are there. But with genetic testing services, yeah, you can predict what cannabinoids are going to be grown by that plant. Yeah, so that can save you a ton of time. Definitely really useful in like the hemp breeding space and ensuring like hemp compliance, making
Right?
sure that your plants don't have any THC production genes. That's where your higher tech cannabis sequencing stuff is going to be really useful.
Well, I hope that that industry fuels the medical side of it, because I think there's so many keys. That's something that we always talk about with these individual expressions. They are chemistry keys that interact with your lock. And to be able to quantify some of this stuff and maybe do some more focused, attentive, breeding practices that we could then turn back to the people would be a service to humanity that's on an epic scale.
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep talking about like the sequencing stuff. Like I mentioned, I don't see many like hobbyists utilizing it yet, but as time goes on, the cost. So right now, to like sequence your plant is anywhere between like $550 and $3,000. So
Okay.
yeah, definitely like kind of out of range for most people. But over time, like that's gonna go down, and these types of services will be more accessible. I mean, the first like human genome sequencing, I think, costs like over $1 billion to do. And now
Yeah.
you can get it done like a 23andMe test, which
For
isn't
like
like a full
35
sequence, but
bucks. Yeah.
yeah, like it's getting, so significantly cheaper, and that's going to continue to happen with cannabis too, and not just cannabis, but any other plants that people like have an interest in and are growing and breeding and looking at these traits.
And I
Other
think
cool
that,
things.
I think AI is also going to advance that exponentially.
Yeah, because like with like AI, you could potentially get your plant DNA sequenced, and even if you aren't like a geneticist or something, you can use AI tools to look at that data that's generated and help you understand that data rather than have to like hire a scientist or a consulting service to not just sequence it, but to also explain that data to you.
This is the
Another thing
fire.
that's cool about the sequencing stuff is that I see, breeders, a value for breeders is kind of protecting your genetic IP and like being able to prove like if genetics were stolen or rebranded or anything like that. I
Yeah.
think if you have a rock star strain, $550 is not a bad price to pay to like, say like I was the first to sequence this strain, and any other copycats, like you can actually compare it.
Well, you've seen people flex with Phylos in that way. They would get their Phylos library of these
Right.
breeders would flex on
I'm
it,
the original whatever.
I'm
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
you know.
No, but
Mhm.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I mean, we've seen, we're fanboys over here of some growers like Ridgeline Farms and Huckleberry Hill Farms, and some of these guys have basically, they've combined like award-winning strains on the flower side of things, and now they're also creating seeds, which is really interesting. And then, but they're also talking about potentially taking their flower only or rosin only, concentrate only strains and putting those strains out into the market. And so it's been, JR and I've kind of talked back and forth about like how risky that is on the grower side of things, where they're kind of like letting their IP out into the world. And so I think I'm glad that you mentioned, a grower like, Johnny from Huckleberry Hill Farm, they could get that sequence and have some sort of like defensibility, because there
Yeah,
are
like
people. Yeah.
they could be selling
Also,
those seeds like with like a limited license that says, you can buy the seed and grow it, but you can't propagate it, you can't breed with it. Like you see that like with like specialty roses and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
yeah,
Um,
that's the, when they put that little tag on there at the bottom of the rose that said it's illegal to clone this, that
mhm.
was the first thing that clued me in. I could clone it, and I did so immediately.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and yeah, if you're worried about like, yeah, so I mean, selling the seed and getting it potentially cloned is one thing, but like you're never going to be able to like fully protect that plant's DNA, is as soon as like it's a flower on the shelf for sale, that has DNA in it. You can sequence that. So, um, you can't like necessarily rebuild it and recreate it just from that dried flower. But once the product's out there, the secret's out there in a way.
especially for breeders who release seed packs. It's once that seed pack, once that little genetic ball leaves your little hands,
Hmm.
trying to have ownership of that or trying to stress out about how it's represented and what they do with it, it's just going to lead you with nothing but less time to
The
focus
horses out
on
the
stuff.
barn. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
And
totally.
until they start utilizing like these IP protection, tools and stuff
Exactly.
like that.
Because
But
you
then
got
like,
white labeling, it'll say say this is, grape blue. And you created this strain, you put all this time and breeding and effort, and you found this amazing cultivar of it. They take some outdoor swag from last year, throw it in the bag with the same name on it, and now that's representing you.
yeah,
And that's representing you what you've created. And that
yeah,
happens a lot. And that even happens in the seed industry. Like some of these seed companies will get hot on a seed, like say it's grape blue. And then what they'll do is they'll be out of that. They'll just throw in a bunch of other random seeds, call it grape blue.
hmm,
People cracking them won't really know the difference. There's a lot of
hmm,
Right.
variety in it. And it's just, so I think being able to do some of that sequencing and IP strategies is kind of cool. But however, I think ownership is weird when you
yeah.
try to do that kind of stuff, especially with so many breeders and so many people making so many amazing seeds and so many cultivars. I think trying to cling on to that is wasted efforts.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, like what you kind of mentioned, how they might relabel seeds because they sold out of a certain seed that's selling. If you're like a commercial customer or like bulk buying those seeds, like it might be worth comparing, like, hey, are these seeds I bought this year, genetically the same
Any-
as what I bought last year? And you might
or
actually
anywhere
be
in
able
the
to build
ballpark, you know what I
build a
mean?
case to protect your consumer rights there. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I know we should be letting you go. So before we do, where can people learn more about Farmer Freeman? Where can they follow you online and also your website and everything like that?
Yeah, thanks. Yes, I mean there's no other, I know this time has just flown by, but yeah, if there's no other questions in the chat, we're Farmer Freeman, farmerfreeman.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn. My name is Jackson Farmer, and that's where I'm going to be posting, I guess, like more like science and business, like kind of higher level questions and discussions. But if you just want to see like cool pictures and like fun facts about like how many males we identified the month prior, our Instagram is a great place to follow us there. So that's Farmer Freeman EZXY. I know you guys always dutifully link us. So yeah, just find the CannaBuzz post and they'll share a Instagram profile. You can text me, you can call me, shoot me an email. I really take a lot of pride in being accessible and giving my customers time to chat about whatever is on their mind or with their business or their plants. Yeah.
Great.
I appreciate it. And I've got, this fun little breeding project that I did this summer with Gushers BX Male and about 5 different varieties. Created quite a few seeds that I'm going to be getting out to the community. These are going to be reg seeds that people are going to be testing, and they're going to need testing services. So I hope that you hit up Farmer Freeman, get some sex testing done. This grow off we're going to do with these giveaways for this breeding project. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to make it a lot of fun and showcase some of people's work as they flower out stuff. So hit up Farmer Freeman and send him all your money.
Yeah. Now is the winter for me is a time to grow some seeds because I have to be inside. So it's an exciting time. Use some Farmer Freeman. Thank you so much for your time, Jackson. We really do appreciate it. Thanks everyone who supports us on CannaBuzz. You guys are awesome. We appreciate you so much. We really do. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of our sponsors for supporting the show. And JR, as always,
Growers love y'all.
peace, everyone, and have a great rest of your week.